Well, I will kick off our second panel session of today's event. So welcome back. I hope you're all caffeinated and ready for our next session. So that will be focusing all on the power of cities in facilitating this food systems change, which we've spoken about many times this morning. So in this panel, we're going to hear about the experiences of the 11 European cities in the design, drafting and implementation of their local food policies, hearing directly from local authorities together with representatives from the UN's FAO and also from the European Commission. So for this, I would like to hand over to Filippo Gavazzeni, who is head of the Milan Urban Food Policy Pack. So Filippo, I pass you the floor.
Thank you. Okay, so good morning also from my side. Delighted to moderate this panel. I'm the head of the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact and Secretariat, and have to say, let me start by saying that Food Trail is our most powerful tool to not only in Europe, but also beyond Europe, and you will discover this afternoon. This is just a free advertisement for my session of the afternoon on how we have been able to transfer also the tools of food trails around the world. So it's a very important project for the Milan Pact community because we have achieved many tangible results. Of course, the tools that are used all over the world by the Milan Pact Secretariat and other organizations, the pilot project on the cities, but also the adoption of the different food strategy in the food trail cities. This is a very important step that cities have to undertake, and it's not by chance that it's the first category of the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact, it's governance. So having cities adopting food strategy in order to have overall impact on and transformation on the food system. So today we will be supported by Professor Paul Milbourne from the Cardiff University, and he will tell us in his introductory remarks how the different cities in food trails have been adopting along these 4 years their food strategies. So what have been the different parts and the different ingredients for the successful adoption of this food strategy. After that, we will have a tangible example from the city of Tirana, that is adopting the first ever food strategy in Albania. Then we will hear from a different perspective from Lina Guglielmino, who will talk about the need to involve small and medium enterprises, the private sector that can bring innovation in cities' food policy. And lastly, we will hear from Maximo, Torero, Chief Economist of FAO, and Klaus Berend from DG SANTE of the European Commission on how cities are very well best positioned to lead the way in implementing sustainable food strategy. So without further ado, I would like to leave the floor before calling the other member of the panel on the stage to Paul for your introduction, and then I will call you on stage. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Filippo. It's great to be here. It's great to see so many old friends and hopefully make lots of new friends over lunch as we go forward. When you come to the end of a project, you start to reflect on what it is you set out to achieve, what it is you have managed to accomplish. And I've been reflecting on these types of issues over the last few days. And in particular, I've been reflecting on the title Food Trails. Not so much the food part of that, because I think we all know what food is, but in terms of that word trail. And I went to my good old trusty dictionary, and I saw that the word trail is both a verb and a noun. And if we think about it as a verb, I was getting a little bit worried. As a verb, it means to be behind, it means to be moving slowly because you're tired, it means to be losing a game. Surely those are not the sort of meanings that we want to attach to this 4-year project. But when we think about trail as a noun, as a sign, as a route, as a track that we leave behind for people to follow. That's exactly what Food Trails is about. And perhaps the most significant trail that we've left as a project is our urban food policies that we have developed, that Andrea showed you briefly before, and I'll talk a little bit in a bit more detail about. As Andrea said, at the start of the project, 3 cities already had a food policy, Copenhagen, Groningen, and obviously Milan. And as we progressed through the project, other cities, as Andrea said, in stages with a lot of support from the project, have developed and implemented their own food policies. So as a project, we've managed to bring in 8 new urban food policies, which I think is a great achievement. But talking to people from Groningen and Copenhagen and Milan, yes, they've already had a policy implemented, but the learnings that have come out of Food Trails, I think have given them lots of ideas for how they can revise their food policies going forward. I think what you can also see from the slide are the types of themes that the cities have been working with, that Food Trails more generally has been interested in. Sustainable food, healthy food, fair and equitable food systems, resilient food systems, as we heard about before. So for me, that track that we're leaving for others to follow is very much epitomized by this first slide. So moving forward, we've also been thinking about what is the value in an urban food policy. And I think there are at least 4 responses to that question. The first one is the recognition that food is a significant feature of our cities. It's an important contributor to the economic, the social, the cultural, the environmental fabric of many of our cities. Second, it's this recognition that acting on food goes beyond food. Acting on food allows cities to start to address what we might call some of those grand challenges that we're facing in the 20th century, to do with climate change and moving towards net zero targets, to do with health and recognizing the importance of food in terms of obesity, in terms of hunger, in terms of malnutrition. Recognizing that acting on food also allows you to address issues of poverty and other aspects of social justice, and acting on food also allows you to enhance the environmental quality of the city. So that's the second reason. A third reason is that developing a local food policy allows cities to better coordinate, to formalize, and to protect food actions already in the city. I think we've heard this from another speaker. If you can scale this up to a food policy, it's easier to protect those food actions from other people coming in the future. And the final point on this slide, and I think in terms of the audience we've got in front of us, in front of me today, I think is probably the most important one. When we look around Europe and try to see where the most innovative, where the most progressive food policy is being developed, it's not being developed by national governments, it's being developed by city governments. And I think that's a really important point to make. It's city governments recognizing that food is more than a market commodity. It has public value. It needs to be treated as a public good, and therefore it needs to be addressed as a public priority. And I guess that point leads me to 2 questions. Why is it that national governments are not seeing food as a public priority, are not viewing it as a public good that warrants policy interventions? And second, and I guess this is why we're here today, how do we scale up the types of projects, the types of policies that have been developed by the 11 cities in food trails to higher levels of governance, to the national level and to the EU question, so the EU level as well. And then just moving forward, what we've also been able to do in our project is look across the 11 partner cities and the 26 cascade cities involved in the project to look at what the key drivers of urban food policy development are. And there are at least 7 that we can identify. And maybe these are in combinations within particular cities. But first of these 7 drivers is that food was seen to be a local political priority by the city, by the controlling party, or indeed the mayor of the ruling party, and we have one of those also in the audience today. It was a political priority, and therefore there was a drive to produce a local food policy. Secondly is learning, and Food Trails is all about learning, as you're picking up. But learning may be in terms of reading about things going on in other cities. It might be visiting cities. It might be being part of a national network. It might be a European network. It might even be an international network such as the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. Talking with each other, learning from what's going on in other cities. Thirdly, and this is a smaller point, only a small number of cities involved in this third point. It may be that there is national policy or an EU directive that encourages cities to scale down that national policy at a local level. Fourth, and this has very much been a part of Food Trails, certain cities have gone out to collect evidence on the nature and the scale of food challenges within their cities. Often working with researchers such as myself, local universities. They've collected that evidence and they've used that evidence base then to justify the development of their food policy. And I think that's a really important point to take home. A fifth point, and I can see some of these people in the audience in front of me, it may be as simple as a particular department in a municipality, a particular individual in a department in a municipality who's got the drive, who's got the enthusiasm, who's got the dedication to see food as a priority issue and to sell that to colleagues within the municipality and sell that to politicians within their city to get a food policy started in the first place. Penultimately, and this connects with, I think, a point I made on the previous slide, it's about recognizing that there's lots of things going on in your city, lots of actions, lots of actors working on food, but it's a little bit disparate. There's a need to join things up, to coordinate food actions within a formal food policy. And then finally, that point I made with the previous slide, trying to scale things up, trying to take food more seriously by formalizing it, by protecting it within an urban food policy. So those are my opening remarks. I will pass you back now to Fabrizio, who I think is going to introduce the rest of the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. It was a perfect intervention in 10 minutes. It was perfect. Okay, so please come with me on the stage. And now it's the time also to welcome the other speakers. So let me reintroduce you Keti Luarasi, the Deputy Mayor of Tirana. Please welcome on stage. Klaus, Berend, Director of Food Safety Innovation of DG SANTE. Lina Guglielmino from Cariplo Factory, our strategic partner also for the Milan food policy, and Maximo Torero, Chief Economist at FIO. Please join me. Okay, so let me, after this introduction from Paul about the different pathways that cities with different context, different also political priority have adopted these food strategies, and also the different ingredients that cities need, Let me now give the floor to a city, to the Deputy Mayor of Tirana. So Tirana has been active in the project by developing, for example, the pilot project on shared supply agricultural chains, creating the agro park, and which is a very interesting strategical peri-urban area of the city, and also by preventing food waste with awareness-raising campaigns in schools. At the same time, Tirana is also working on finalizing its first urban food policy, which will be the first ever also in Albania. So my question to you is, what priorities will you work on once the strategy is approved, and how do you plan to link the strategic investment in the territory to the developed action, so the pilot project that I mentioned at the beginning? Thank you.
Thank you, and hello everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here and to learn a lot from every one of you, and definitely after we have gone through a fantastic learning phase from the food trail. For us, it has been a new experience to gather all together, everybody, all the stakeholders, being them different levels of the legislative people, being them stakeholders from retail companies, restaurants, foods, everybody in to prepare that kind of policy. And we have learned a lot. That was a fantastic way of going through. And when we talk together, when we gather together, we saw that there are so many things happening in the dynamic city of Tirana. Many things have changed. New developments are implemented. So talking back to Tirana 10 years ago, we were mainly a city where the majority of the business and the industry was agriculture and shoemaking and manufacturing. While right now, everything has changed. We have a boom of tourism in the city. And having tourists in the city means that everybody is looking for that food product, and everybody is looking for that bio and healthy meal in the restaurants of the city. So many dynamics, many new things have changed, and we had to work together and see which are the best possible ways to go further. So we saw many things that has to be part of our food system strategy. The first one is how we can make possible that we can continue the education of all our young generation with all markets, restaurants, farmers, fruit producers, to be as much as sustainable and resilient in this food industry. How is it possible to prepare and to have a focus on the waste management? So that would be another aspect of the key priorities that we'll have in the city. How we can maximize the food waste, how we can make sure that everybody in the city is thinking of circular economies, how we can include and implement everything that is possible to continue to take care of that environmental aspects in the territory of Tirana. Another idea is how we can gather and accumulate everything together from the customers, from the produced farmers, and from the buyers in one place. And this is exactly part of the Agro Tirana, which is the newly biggest farmers market opened in the city. Actually, it's in the third phase of development, so we have still work to go on, and which is actually part of the strategy. And the fourth pillar is absolutely how we can provide definitely healthy food supply, not just to our social centers and people in need, but definitely to create that kind of nourishing aspect to everybody in the city. So continuing that kind of campaigns, awareness through our development plans. it's for us, we have only 2 days ago, the mayor introduced that in all public schools of the city, we are going to provide free healthy meals throughout their education process for the pre-university, all levels of pre-university. This is exactly not to provide just that kind of healthy meal, but also to learn to teach them how they can prepare everything in advance and how they can be maximized to create that kind of mentality that we had to educate people first, the young generation. So in order for us to have the possibility to tackle their parents and definitely the ones that are in need. So this has been some of the key pillars that we have focused on in our food trail strategy, but definitely combining it with all the investments, new investments that we are doing in the city, this definitely is going to be maximized. We have plenty of investments, territorial investments going on, infrastructure, being them points like the agro park that is already built. But we are foreseeing to create those kind of small pocket gardens that will be used as small marketplaces in all the neighborhoods of the city. And not only that, but we have already started the work of mobility and bringing the healthy and organic food from the local farmers in the rural area to the urban area, so for them to sell and to have the possibility and the means that everybody in the city has a fantastic access to the healthy food. So these are some of the ways that we are tackling in this new strategy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Keti. I think you gave a very tangible examples on how to connect what is a plan, an overall food strategy with very tangible services that you will provide to your citizens, and also I recall also the very important announcement of the mayor of providing free school meals. I think we will have to discuss more about that. And also thank you for mentioning the importance to have involved within a food strategy all the infrastructure, the food policy infrastructure that a city can manage. Then let's move to Klaus. We have heard from Tirana, but also from Paul, how the different cities are implementing their food strategy, maybe with different processes, the different involvement of stakeholders, and however, with similar approaches as far as the common goals and the references to the European policies. So I would like to know what additional steps the European Commission can undertake to encourage the launch of new urban food policies in Europe, and also what measures can be undertaken to consolidate the existing ones, starting from the food trails one. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Filippo, and thank you also for the invitation to be a part of this panel. I couldn't be here for the very first session, but my colleague Wim, who was here, told me that it was extremely helpful and interesting, and he learned a lot about the outcome of your project. And Paul, to come back to what you said in the beginning, when I read the title Trails, I immediately thought of the noun. I did not think of the verb, so that you are setting out a path, or that the cities are setting out path forward and not lag behind. So congratulations to all the participants in this project for the results. And also it confirms what we in the Commission have always thought, that in order to achieve a transition to sustainable food systems with all its components, the role of regional local authorities, cities is extremely important. Because even though many people think Brussels, do everything, but then when we try to do everything, we are criticized for mingling into things where we shouldn't mingle. Having messages and initiatives trickle down via the member states to the regions and the cities is indeed extremely important. And cities and governments from cities, you're much closer to citizens than we can ever be, despite all efforts in communication. And Paul, you also mentioned that the member states are, not all of them at least, are giving enough priority to national food policies. That's again something that we also share and try to address in one of our proposals that we made in the last mandate to combat food waste and avoid food waste by setting legally binding targets for the member states, with the idea behind that they do indeed take much more coordinated action, involve all the relevant actors, everything that we just heard and that was presented also from Tirana and what I saw in the brochure also from the other cities, to come to a coordination and involvement of all actors that need to be involved in this. And we made a couple of other proposals that I'm not going to comment on all individually, but many of them are now in the Council and the Parliament under negotiation. And I would encourage your cities, but also others, to make your views known to the MEPs and to your national government on what can be done in order to foster this common cause that we all want to pursue. So, Filippo, to come to your question, what can we do in addition? We are already working on criteria for sustainable public procurement. Colleagues from the Joint Research Center, together with my colleagues and others in the Commission, are coming up with criteria in this regard, and we hope that they can be helpful to cities who want to implement such policies. And I understand that there are already many, including you in Milan, and also others who have already done that. So hopefully that can help you and others in this endeavor. We have a platform, and I'm focusing maybe a bit here again on food waste. We have a platform for stakeholders, member states, but also regional or even city authorities, with regular exchanges on what actions can be taken, what are successful, learning from each other, and finding good projects that can inspire action in others. And this platform is very active, and all the results and everything they produce is available online. We have done a lot to mark the International Day on Food Waste last week, including a lot of communication material, such as a cookbook from famous chefs on how to use leftovers for healthy and good meals. Hopefully that can also help cities, in addition to immediately directly citizens in their endeavors. And obviously we are also giving grants to actors at national, but more often actually regional or local level, action grants, money, financial support to implement projects in relation to food waste again. So that's what we're already doing. And play back the question that you gave to me, Filippo, we will definitely look at the outcome of this project to see whether there are things in there that can inspire us for further activities. But you also don't hesitate to contact us and flag things to us that we can do in order to help cities on this forward-looking trail. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On the one hand, the European food strategies that the Milan Pact is supporting within and also beyond food trails are encouraged to have reference to the common goals of the European laws and framework. So we will continue on this path. And on the second hand, very happy to play and continue playing also beyond the end of the project to provide you with the inputs and what we would like, let's say, to receive in terms of support. Even if the project ends, we have very tangible heritage of it, and also we will continue through the activity of advocacy with the Milan Pact and Eurocities that, of course, will continue to work together on this. Let's now move to Lina Guglielmino. So it's the time to see this from another perspective. Indeed, the Caripro Factory has been a great partner in the Food Trails project for dealing with the development of innovation and in collaboration with small medium enterprises in food trails. So cities in developing their food policy have some struggle. One of them is the involvement of the private sector that also can bring innovation within the food strategy. We have done this through the food labs and also with other action. Nevertheless, there is this issue with the private sector engagement. So what was the pathways you took in the Food Trails project to overcome this challenge and connect local authorities with business working on innovation?
Thank you, Filippo, and good morning, everyone. I would like to answer starting with a statement. We strongly believe that the collaboration between public sector, so municipalities, cities, and so on, and the private sector, represented by the most innovative startups and SMEs, can be a very important building block for in developing a systemic approach towards strong food policies, strong food policies. Starting from this point of view, we supported the Food Trails project in developing a call for solutions to find the best innovative solutions in Europe that can support in some way the 11 cities of the Food Trails project. So we started with detecting activity of the innovation needs of the cities involved in the project. We done it through the use of innovative tools of design thinking that were adapted to the city's context. And we found 7 different main challenges that the cities are trying to answer to. So as you can see, from food packaging to food waste management and reduction, distribution, delivery, logistics of food, data collection, communication, engagement, and so on. Starting from these 7 challenges, we launched a pan-European call. As you can see, we received 200 applications, so 200 startups and SMEs from all over Europe and beyond sent the application to collaborate with these cities to implement some pilot projects, not also during the Food Trails project, but beyond. This was a first good starting for us, so to understand that there's a possibility to create a connection between these 2 different entities, so cities and innovative companies. So then we continued the process to find the best partners to develop this pilot project in Living Labs and in other cities' activities. So we had an evaluation committee that decided to present some of these startups to the cities that then directly chosen the companies to meet during the matchmaking day, an event that we created in Milan last year, and that gave the opportunity to startups to present their innovative solutions and to have a chat with the one-to-one session with cities to understand what were the possible collaboration that they can develop together. So this was the first step for a long process, of course, that City started and that we hope can continue also after Food Trails project.
Thank you, Lina. And of course, this will continue after the project because this the experience that we have learned, for example, with the what we just mentioned, will become like a kind of public treasure of the membership of the Milan Pact and Eurocity. So for sure, we will take advantage of it. Let's now move to Maximo. We have seen from right now from the example of Tirana, but also from the presentation of Paul, how developing a food strategy is key to have an impact on the entire food system that cities manages. So from food waste prevention to food production or food supply and distribution, food aid. So basically all the categories of the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact. Considering that FAO is struggling to support territories and cities on food security and the complex challenges that cities also all over the world are facing, what recommendation would you like to give to cities that are developing or implementing a food strategy in order they can, that this food strategy can be resilient to economic and environmental shocks?
Thank you so much, and a pleasure to be with you today. So let me first bring some numbers. In the world, we are facing 733 million people which are in hunger. 70% of the food is consumed in cities and in peri-urban cities. 77% of the acute, the severe or the moderate food insecure people, the FIES, the food insecurity experience scale, are in cities. And 17% of emissions come from cities. So clearly cities play a crucial role in global food security and in the way we can improve this process. So having a strategy in cities is central. Now, the second element is the important fact of linking food security, the right to food, and climate. Why is so important? Because we want to have good food for all for today and tomorrow. And today, the agri-food system produces food for people, of course, not enough in terms of calories, but not enough in terms of high-value commodities to have access to healthy diets. But the linkage to climate that will allow us to continue to produce and provide the right to food tomorrow is central. But we shouldn't argue that the agri-food system is doing bad things all the time. The agri-food system, of course, to produce the right to food will create externalities. Externalities over environment, emissions, and externalities over land and water. But it will bring benefits, which is having access to food. But we need to assure that this happens also tomorrow. And the only way we can assure that is transforming this system so that it also is more sustainable, produces more with less, and we improve redistribution. Now, cities in this context play a crucial role. Why? First, when we did the SOFI 2023, which was looking at urban and rural areas and the continuum, we found that it's not only the urban consumers, but also peri-urban consumers in this continuum from rural to urban that are consuming food produced in cities. Second, a lot of the processing of the food happens in peri-urban and urban cities because of the need of energy. So the production of the raw materials happens mostly in rural areas, some of it in peri-urban areas, and some of it very close to cities, but also it happens, is processed mostly in peri-urban and urban areas. The wholesale markets are normally located in urban areas, and that's where the standards and the food safety issues are so important. So cities can play a crucial role in looking at all these elements of the agri-food system, not just as the production on the farm, but also from the farm to the plate. The second point is, through these food safety standards and through the standards in the wholesale markets, we can start to create production and markets and giving the proper incentives so that we produce more efficiently what we do. And that is crucial to assure that we move to commodities which are more safe for the consumers. Also, the cities are in charge of providing most of the food support through cash transfer programs, other types of transfer of programs to the population. The population which needs to have better access, and today they cannot because they are severely food insecure or they are in extreme poverty. And a lot of extreme poverty is now concentrated in peri-urban areas. But the way they do these programs could increase substantially the efficiency in the way we use and we access to food. For example, all this repurposing agenda that is being discussed today of support to agriculture, we know today that the amount of support is mostly coming from developed countries. In developing countries, the amount of money is smaller. Of course, it's important in terms of share of GDP, but in total it's small. But that money, if it is used properly through consumers, could have a bigger impact than directly supporting or repurposing the supply to producers, because of the small size of the money, which is different to developed countries where the size is a lot bigger. Third, we have to look at how we manage the food, and waste is a crucial, important problem. Waste happens at different levels, but we know that the majority of the waste is happening at the consumer level. And again, 70% of the consumers are in the urban and peri-urban sector. And that is behavioral change. And that's where cities can play a crucial role. For example, we have very sophisticated tools today through artificial intelligence to scan the food that is being thrown to the trash and to identify the components of that food. That is just telling us information. It's good for baseline of information. But it's not pushing behavioral change. At FAO, we have developed a very simple system where the consumer, when they finish eating in a restaurant or in a school or in their own house, they will separate the food by type of food, so fruits and vegetables, tubers, cereals, and so on. And then we will immediately tell him how much proteins, how much calories, how much emissions, how much water has been used. Just looking at that makes them realize of what they are doing how they are wasting the food and how they can do. And in all our cafeterias, we are now seeing a significant change in reduction of waste because of just behavioral change of looking at what you are throwing out. Imagine how we can do a similar system in schools, in school feeding programs, for example. It's a beautiful case because school feeding programs, normally we have one menu. So it's very easy. If the kids are throwing the food, it's because they don't like what you're supplying to them. And that can immediately make us possible to change what we supply to them, looking at healthy diets, of course, but will create a big change in terms of reduction of waste. So mayors and cities have to look at that. I think it's really important. Of course, we talk about converting the waste of food into other ways to save it, to fertilize, and so on and so forth. There we also need to be careful on the standards, because if we use food that is contaminated and have certain toxins in it, we cannot use it as a fertilizer later. And that we have to be very careful. So again, regulation and standards will be crucial in that process. Now, of course, in the linking to climate, outside of reduction of waste, which we know will reduce emissions, there is a significant share of the emissions of methane, especially on the way we destroy the food, that can be reduced. But also we need to find ways in which peri-urban production is more efficient, so we can produce more with less. But also we can mitigate, and that's the part of the forestry. And cities are crucial to increase the level of forest, and will also increase the capacity of mitigation through the building of new forests. There are very nice examples happening outside of developed countries. If you go today to Addis Ababa, you will see a huge change in terms of green areas and forestry. And many other countries are starting to learn about this. For us, what we have developed is what we call the roadmap to SDG 2, so the right to food, and 1.5 degrees Celsius, without bridging 1.5. Because those two objectives are crucial. And we are working with New York City. I hope soon we will link with Milan. We are starting with New York because they have a lot of data that we can help to develop this process. But I think there is a set of actions that we can build up in a roadmap that can accelerate the convergence of these two goals, which will be central. And that's where we need to work. So more than happy to link with all the cities to try to accelerate that process, because we believe that if major cities are able to show how they are converging these two key objectives of right to food, which is priority, and also being sustainable so that we can have good food for all for today and tomorrow, we could create a huge impact in the world, and especially transfer this knowledge to developing and poor countries which can do this, and we can accelerate that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Maximo, also for underlying how it's difficult to take into consideration for cities all these multiple challenges that are involved in the food system. We will. I'm very curious about the example that you made from Addis Ababa. We will be there next week for the regional forum for African cities, and we will let you know. Okay, so let's now move to a very quick second round of questions. I have some questions for speakers, and then if we are good enough with the timing, I would love to open the question also to the public. Let me start again with Keti. You have already mentioned how your city made some significant advancement in your food policy. Can you share one key challenges that you faced implementing these policies, and also one major success? Thank you.
Sure. One of the challenges for us was definitely the working together of territorial development, social enterprises and retail and food farmers in one place, the creation of Tirana. It was really a challenge, because it was a challenge, first of all, to create the mentality, to change the mentality of our small local farmers, to bring their foods and organic foods in our marketplaces. The other challenge was that how we have to work together, city and citizens, so we need to expropriate part of the land of the territory to create that park, and definitely for us was definitely a challenge to work with all the other stakeholders, which means the other restaurants, other retailers, to come and go to this big market and find the most fresh and organic food to supply their own focal points. That was definitely a challenge. Another challenge was for us was bringing everyone in the same room. So it was a challenge, but at the same time was a success. So when we started to prepare the food strategy, we took in consideration, and I would very much agree with everything that you said. When we started the implementation, the writing of the strategy, we had a lack of the whole data in the system. So for us, it was absolutely important to go and collect all that kind of mapping process. You call it the roadmap, but we called it in the city a mapping process. So we have to understand and to see where are all our retailers, where are all our farmers. We need to register all our farmers and all our products that we have in the city. So we need to register and to have the information and to bring in the same room also all the retailers, all the food suppliers. So for us, that was a success. Was a success because we collected the data, was a success because we asked everybody's opinion and everybody's requirement how the city needs to develop further on the food strategy, and definitely it was a success even for some of the restaurants, for example, to try to think of other ways of changing their menus in order to be as environmental and to prepare as much as less surplus of products that they have on as a waste. So that was a holistic approach, and for us that was the biggest success. So that's from our side. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your insights. I'm sure it will be definitely useful for other cities that are on the way. Let's now move to Lina again. I would like to know, referring to also to the previous contents that you share, the main challenges that, in your opinion, municipalities face in implementing the food policies, and also, of course, at least one major positive outcome of it. Thank you.
Thank you. It's not easy to answer to this question. I mean, we are used to facilitate conversation and collaboration between partners that generally don't speak the same language. But with the cities and startups, the challenge is harder, and it's not easy to start a process like the one we try to put in place with food trails. This is due to different reasons. From one side, it is connected to the procurement process and to the different speed of developing process in startups and municipalities. Of course, startups are more agile and quicker than a public administration. But in food trails, the cities decided to challenge themselves to understand how these entities can help in finding new answers to identify the challenges and needs of the population. And this was a very big start and a bet that they done in their own context. Speaking of positive outcomes, potential positive outcomes, this can be a lot. For example, let's think about the learning process and the influence that they can have each other. Municipalities, cities can learn to give a faster, a quicker answer to the citizens, and on the other hand, innovative companies can learn how to answer to real needs from the population, because as you know, not everything that we find on the market is really oriented to the needs of the population. So this is a good balance that they can find. If succeed, this should be a win-win-win logic. So it's a systemic approach, a systemic pathway that can create a shared value between municipalities, citizens, and innovative companies. So there's a long way to take, but it works.
Thank you. So we will for sure continue with the approach and share this approach also with and the let's say the success cases, but also the the lesson that we learn in this 4 years project. So let me have one last question and then be prepared, because I will open the floor to Klaus. We were discussing about also in the first session about the possible EU framework law on food policy and how cities want to be involved in it. We organized also around 1.5 years ago an event on this in order to have to play a role with this framework law that potentially can really change our food system. So do you believe that this law could incorporate at the end substantial focus on the urban dimension? And what is the role that you see for cities in this potential framework law? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Filippo. Indeed, in the last mandate, in the Farm to Fork strategy, the Commission had put forward the idea to propose such a framework law on sustainable food systems. And we have conducted a lot of work in its preparation, lots of consultations, and I think cities and authorities at all levels, stakeholders, were intensely involved in that, and we have a wealth of material as a result that is now available for the next Commission, the next mandate to take forward. And those of you who followed the recent developments, you will be aware that the strategic dialogue on agriculture that has just concluded and produced its report in the beginning of September, again very prominently highlights the need for a system-based approach, and indeed emphasizes the need for more sustainability. And the Commission President has taken this up also in her policy guidelines when she announced that the Commission will present in the first 100 days of the new mandate its vision for an agricultural or for a food system that ensures long-term sustainability and competitiveness within planetary boundaries. So the report from the strategic dialogue will be an important input for that, but also the work that we have conducted over the last mandate. And what is also clear, that in order to make this happen, and Mrs. von der Leyen has also said that in the various mission letters, we need the right mix of incentives investments also, and also an enabling policy and regulatory framework. And I hear you, Filippo, saying cities have their place in this, and we have no doubts about that. As I said in the beginning, in my first statement, we've always recognized the need for having local, regional authorities involved, as they are so much closer to citizens directly than we can ever be. So I take your point, and I hear that, and we'll see what will find its way into this vision document that will come in the first 100 days.
Thank you so much. Very good to hear, and we are also very happy about the what you say in your previous intervention about your openness to receive inputs from the Food Trails project, so we are able also to make a bridge with and working together closely with DG RTD, who founded Food Trails, and DG SANTE. That's very good. So let me now open the floor for questions. If there are one or two questions from the audience. Yes?
So it's not really questions, more a recommendation. Yeah.
Could you just say your name and your role? Thanks.
I'm Johan, I work for the city of Antwerp. It's not a question, but it's more a recommendation. I work on two things for the city of Antwerp. I write the climate plan, if it's linked to mitigation, and I also wrote the food strategy for Antwerp, and I'm coordinating the last thing. Now, what a lot of cities do is they sign a contract with the Covenant of Majors. All the climate plans of 10,000 cities in Europe are sent into the Covenant of Majors. The Covenant of Majors has three pillars. One is on mitigation, one is on adaptation, one is on energy poverty. What is not there is a link to food. You can work on it, but you don't have to. If you want to speed up a food strategy and bring it to the cities, there are 10,000 cities that are simply following the guidelines of the Covenant of Major. If it would be possible to include a fourth pillar, a food strategy, it would be beneficial for a lot of cities. And if you would then include that it's mandatory to work on food waste and on a diet change, then climate would benefit enormously from it. It's a small step, looking into it, but it can have huge benefits for it. So to the person working for the Commission, if you could take this as a recommendation with you, we would be very grateful.
And not just us, also the cities who are part of this network of the Covenant of Mayors, and maybe the 11 cities who are in this project are, I don't know all who are the members. Yes, they should definitely bring this message. So fully agree with you, and it rhymes very well with what Paul said in the beginning also, that if you tackle the food system, you tackle many big problems, and you mentioned a few of them: climate change, healthier diets, absolutely. So from our side, full support, and I don't know exactly who in the Commission is the DG that has the most contacts with this covenant, but also the members from within need to propagate this, absolutely, yeah.
Sure.
Thank you very much for the suggestion. And in the city of Tirana, just as I can give a proper example, we have started that with the kids in the nurseries and kindergartens. When we did the dietary nutrition diet for the food, for the meals for the kids, we had absolutely the most fighting from the people, from the parents, because at the beginning they didn't know that feeding with chips and Nutella kids in nurseries and kindergartens was a food and was a meal, but was not a healthy meal. So we have introduced the newly nutrition diet for kids in schools, in nurseries and kindergartens, with everything, with all the nutrition aspects in it. And that, in a way, changed also the trust of citizens towards the work of the governments in this regard. So these are things that we in the city today decided to change that and go through the proper nutrition, but this is something that needs to be regulated. So thank you very much for your comment.
Only one, I fully agree with you. I think this is essential. It's not only essential at the city level, it was essential at COP28, no? The way to bring agri-food to a discussion. But on the cities, we are starting this with New York City. I hope with Milan we can start, and with 11 municipalities, because they are, in New York at least, they have very clear targets on food and also on climate. So it will be useful to scale up this type of matrix of commitments and work and actions to be done through this roadmap that we're working, because it will help us also to empower the roadmap also at COP29 and especially at COP13.
Thank you. Paul, do you want to react or? Okay, perfect. So that's a very good insight, and we have seen very fertile ground for it. So I think now it's time to close the panel. If you want to know more about this, what cities have been doing in food trails, remember to download from Spotify the podcast Food and the Cities. Let me close this session by thanking all the speakers. Thank you so much, and definitely we will keep working even though the project is going to an end. We will continue. The 11 cities will continue to work together within Eurocities and within the Pact, together also with FAO and the European Commission. Thank you.